Hi everyone! Welcome to our very first episode of Chit Chat with Auntie Mary! Today we have Jeff, my lovely husband, who will be co-hosting our very first episode.
Yes, hello everybody. My name's Jeff. Very excited to be here. And as a husband, I'm very proud, Mary, because I've seen how long and how hard you've been working on this. So finally come to life and I get to share it with you. So it's very, very excited.
Oh, well, thank you. If I didn't have you, it would be really awkward talking to myself for the next 30, 40 minutes. So appreciate your help here.
So for the people who are listening, you're wearing this gray wig and glasses. Can you explain that a bit more?
Oh, this is Auntie Mary law.
Oh, I see. Looking pretty good.
Thank you. You do like older women.
Yeah. So who is Auntie Mary?
Well, Auntie Mary is me.
Okay. But older?
Yeah. Well, Auntie Mary is the older version of me. She is in her 60s. She looks good. And she has grey hair. And she is very wise. And she has also lived through life, is successful, and is also here to tell me that everything will be okay.
So it's the voice inside of you, in a way, like a guiding voice.
Yeah, in that way, Auntie Mary is the voice in my head. I would say she's also my intuition, which I feel like I have been suppressing for many years. And I'm bringing her to life right now.
I feel I also kind of have like an Auntie Mary inside of myself as well, like this older lady parent kind of guiding me along.
I feel like many times we always suppress that inner voice in our head that is always nudging us in the right direction. We call that our intuition, or sometimes we can call it, if it's spiritual, we call it your guardian angel. So I wanted to create this character, Auntie Mary, and use her for my podcast. Hopefully she can guide us to the right direction.
How did you get the idea to do a creative project?
I got really inspired by Martha Beck, who is a world-renowned psychologist and coach. She said that engaging the right side of your brain can help reduce overall anxiety. So the right side of our brain is where we are creative, it's where our intuition sits, it's where we're imaginative, it's where our imagination sits. It's also the part where our emotional intelligence is. And I've realized for the longest time, I've been very much using the left part of my brain. I mean, you know me, I'm very logical. I like to overanalyze things. And when you do that, it can actually lead to anxiety. You do too much of it. Because sometimes when things go wrong, they go wrong. And overanalyzing things is not the solution. So if you think about it, and if the opposite of anxiety is calmness, then in theory, we should not be overanalyzing things and we should be creative instead. And therefore, we can perhaps be more calm.
And then for your creative project, why did you choose podcasting?
Well, I chose podcasting because, if I have to be really honest, it was out of desperation, pure desperation. I had a lot of ideas in the beginning. I was like, maybe I should pick up a new hobby. Maybe I should start painting. And I tried. I bought watercolors and I just really couldn't get into that flow state. I also tried baking, but my cookies just tasted horrible. I also want to do something a bit more long-term and tangible, considering I have the luxury of time right now. So I started thinking deeper and I was like, you know what? I can talk.
Yeah, you can talk very well.
I can talk. So if that's the case, podcasting would be a very good idea. And I also remembered when I was a little girl, I used to listen to the radio a lot. And I was always very inspired by radio DJs talking on the radio. To be honest, I also thought like, when I was like a teenager, I was like, maybe I can be a radio DJ when I grow up. And guess what? Podcasting could be a way for me to explore that interest. I'm not saying that I want to be a radio DJ, but that little girl inside of me was very interested in that subject matter a long time ago.
So it's like full circle, now it's coming back. And maybe it's Auntie Mary inside kind of nudging you in this direction.
Yeah, I think Auntie Mary nudged me to explore podcasting, and she reminded me that as a little girl, I was interested in being a radio DJ. So what I wanted to do was, help that little girl fulfill her dreams through podcasting and also be creative and have fun during this process.
So when you were reflecting, did you ever consider why, if you if you enjoyed talking and radio DJ, that was something you wrote down, why is it that you didn't pursue something along that line and you instead went the traditional corporate route and got those kinds of jobs?
Throughout this entire process, I realized that a lot of the hats and the roles I had in my previous jobs were not authentically me. And that also got me thinking about imposter syndrome a lot the last few months. So imposter syndrome here is defined as a psychological condition that is characterized by persistent doubt concerning one's abilities or accomplishments, accompanied by the fear of being exposed as a fraud, despite evidence of being successful, of ongoing success. So I guess it's just people finding out that you're fake. Like one day you wake up and everyone's like, you're fake, you're fake, you're fake, you're fake, you're fake, you're fake, you're fake. And did you also know that there are 5 types of imposter syndrome?
Oh, really? I thought it was just imposter syndrome. There's one thing and that's it.
No, there are 5 types.
That's a lot of imposters.
There are 5 types of imposter syndromes. And I think these 5 types would manifest in different scenarios and in different roles. I'll read the 5 type out.
Okay.
I have it over here. So according to Dr. Val Young, there are 5 types of imposter syndrome. Number 1, the perfectionist. That person must do everything flawlessly. Number 2, the superhero. Must excel in every role. So role could be employee, parent, friend, to avoid feeling incompetent. Number 3, the natural genius. Must understand new skills or new ideas. Otherwise, they feel that they're not good enough. Number 4, the soloist. Must accomplish things entirely by themselves. Asking for help feels like a sign of weakness or defeat. The last one, the expert. Must know everything there is to know. If you don't, they feel unqualified.
I can definitely resonate with the first one, the perfectionist. Since young, like everything from school, outward appearance, things always had to be very flawless. I think it was partially my upbringing. For you, which one resonates the most?
For me, I think the natural genius, imposter syndrome type. I feel like I am not smart enough or good enough a lot of the times, and that I will wake up one day and people will realize that I'm a fraud. Yeah, I've got into places in my career and in school because I faked my way in.
Could you expand on that a bit more, how this came about? Because it sounds like it's really deep rooted from your education and your work history.
Yeah, so growing up, I always wanted to seem like I got things very easily. But I was never that kid that had very good grades. Okay, but despite the fact that I didn't have good grades, right? I would get like B's or C's, right? I actually studied very hard. And I was what a Singaporean would call a closet mugger.
I've never heard closet mugger before.
Okay, so closet mugger is a person who mugs, aka studying, but they do it in the closet.
I see. So hidden from view.
Hidden from view. So I would study a lot actually, growing up, but I studied a lot at home. And I would also go out a lot, but I overcompensate, have a lot of guilt of going out and I come back and study very hard. And when I don't get good grades, which is pretty often, the B plus and the C minus, my excuse was I was dating, I was going out a lot. To seem like I wasn't studying, that's why my grades were shit.
I see.
And that always made me feel less than. Because I had friends who maybe didn't study at all and still had the same grades as me.
Or maybe they were doing the same thing. You never know.
I don't know. I don't think so. I guess you never know, right? So that made me feel very insecure. And one particular incident, it happened many, many times. Like my friend would call my house and be like, oh, can I speak to Mary Ann? And I would tell my sister, don't ever say that Tete is studying. Say that she is out with her boyfriend or she is doing something else. Because I was so worried that people will find out that I'm studying.
This is like fear you had inside.
Yeah, it was a big fear. It was genuinely a big fear. And I think it got that natural genius imposter syndrome type got manifested even deeper when I was going to university. So a bit of context, after my O-levels, I went to poly for a bit. Also, that made me feel very insecure. And then I went to the US for university. So fun fact, I actually went to a lesser known university in my first year before I transferred to New York University in my second year. And I've always felt like that psychologically messed me up because I transferred. I mean, it's something that you should be proud of, right? Like, oh, you got into a good school and you actually went through the side door, but regardless, you still got in. You got in means you got in. But no, that ate me out psychologically and messed me up because most of my friends got in through the front door. They went the JC route, they got in through the front door. I went through the back door. So I always feel like I had something to prove. And after I graduated, I wanted to have a very good career that looked good on paper to overcompensate for the fact that I went in through the side door in school.
So it sounds like back then, the Auntie Mary, the voice, the intuition inside, you were suppressing it, and it was some other narrative that was playing in your head.
Yeah, it were not external voices. So honestly, nobody cared. My parents also, I don't think they cared a lot, but it was maybe the inner critic inside of me that took up 90% of my headspace, that told me that I should feel less than because I transferred. So I think that's how the natural genius imposter syndrome type actually manifested for me a lot. Yeah. And I think the third one, the other one here is the superhero. The superhero, since we talk about the perfectionist and the natural genius, they must excel in every role to avoid feeling incompetent.
So this one, it sounds like it's the person that cannot say no. It's like everything, so? Everything that is requested of this person, they'll do, and they need to be really good at it. And they just wear multiple hats, and they seem to be everywhere, right?
As in, they cannot say no, but it's not that they are people pleaser, but they want to do everything, and they want to be good in everything.
Yeah, and it's like maybe this deep feeling of guilt where if they say no, then they think that other people will say, oh, that person can't do it, or that person doesn't have a good attitude type of thing.
I'm okay saying no.
Yeah, I think I'm okay saying no. It's gotten better as I've gotten older.
But I think also maybe in certain roles, because I think it moves around. But I think this one, I don't identify as much.
The soloist?
I think, the soloist, soloist is the must accomplish things entirely on your own. Asking for help feels like a sign of weakness or defeat. I feel like you maybe?
Yeah, I think this creeps in for me, especially, I think in work settings, I think I could definitely get that. I tend to not ask for help or work well with others. But I think you're very open to saying you need help and being open and vulnerable.
I'm okay. I love to work with people, to ask for help. But I think the soloist one is they don't like to work on group projects.
Yeah.
Or they like to do everything by themselves. And they are afraid to say, I don't know.
Yeah, like the lone wolf.
The lone wolf.
Then you mentioned the expert.
Yeah, I think this manifested for me a lot when I was at Bain.
Okay. And how did that manifest?
So it manifested because, very similar to my NYU story, I also got into consulting via the side door. I got into Bain as a marketing expert after working in industry for, at that point of time, like 8-9 years already. And we were actually the founding team that set up the marketing practice in APAC. And I was part of that founding team. But I'm pretty sure we all had a chip on our shoulder because unlike the general consultants that got in through the front door, we came in through the side door.
But what's the difference between the two doors?
General consultant route, those kids would get into consulting via recruiting programs. They typically would go to Ivy Leagues, or maybe they would be the best in class in their university as well.
Or MBAs.
Or MBA students, exactly. And the expert routes are individuals who will be experts in a specific domain, and our domain was marketing.
So it sounds like a combination of maybe school credentials and how you get recruited, how you get pulled in.
Exactly.
And it maybe leads to a stigma. Again, maybe
it's all
entirely in your head.
Yeah. Then that also manifested in ways where we would overly compensate, feel insecure. And then I remember my time there, I also had a lot of anxiety.
Do you feel the anxiety really came from imposter syndrome or from something else?
I think so. I think it definitely came from imposter syndrome, and also because I feel like it was never really aligned with what I wanted to do or feel very congruent inside of me.
I see. And that disconnect, could you explain a bit more?
So that feeling is like being fake or wearing a facade or wearing a mask for the longest time, and that's not the real you. And you're still going along the day trying to be a perfect version of yourself, but deep down inside you are dying and crying. But also because you're like, help, this is not me anymore. I do not want to be that person anymore. I want to be authentically me. So I think it was a combination of both, where I felt like I had something to prove, that I was very insecure inside, thus I was wearing this mask of trying to be the perfect corporate warrior on paper. But then the other part of me also know that it was not aligned with my core or my beliefs and who I really wanted to be. And I felt, very, very confused and lost for a very long time.
So then after consulting, there was a bit of time between then and now with Auntie Mary. So what happened in between?
So I quit and I immediately went to TikTok.
Okay. And then but you were only at TikTok for a short while, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was at TikTok for 6 months and then I got poached by a unicorn. So after TikTok, an opportunity came about very randomly. The co-founder of a tech unicorn actually reached out to me and asked me to come work with him.
Okay. And then why did they reach out to you? Like, why were they so interested in you?
Great question. I think it was just, for me, I just say it was like luck, right? But I think they just needed someone with management consulting background. I worked at Expedia before that as well. This tech unicorn is in the travel scene, so he needed a chief of staff that had travel experience while also understood marketing and had management consulting experience. So I just checked all the boxes. And I was like, oh wow, it was for the very first time in my career where someone wanted to work with me. It was the first time in my career where I didn't have to apply for a job and I got a job offer. It was the first time in my career where I felt seen and recognized by someone important, right? Who I thought was very important. Someone who I respected, obviously. And I thought it was like the stamp of approval that I needed so that I could feel less insecure.
So it's like after all these years of schooling, of working, it's like finally.
Yeah, I was like, wow, it's my big break. Someone recognizes me. Maybe I am not so fake after all.
And not a fraud, yeah.
Maybe I really have value and maybe I could really contribute. Yeah, and I took the job and he asked me to be his chief of staff.
And then what happens after you joined?
So I was there for like almost 2 years and then restructuring, things happened. I got laid off.
Okay. And what was that like?
Yeah, it was not easy because I tied my entire self-worth to my job and my career. And when that was all gone and taken away from me, there was nothing, literally. So it took me a long time to get to Auntie Mary. But for the longest time, I was not okay. And I was not okay not because I lost my job. I know layoffs are very common. I have friends who have gotten laid off many times. People around me, family or so. Yes, but it's like, oh my God, it happened to you. It's like that thing where like, oh no, you hear people getting divorced and then it's like, oh shit, it's you, right? So I didn't think it happened to me. Okay, it happened to me and I was like, okay, how bad could it be? But for people who got out of it very quickly, it was because they had very clear direction.
Yeah.
They knew what they wanted to get out in their career. They applied for jobs based on their expertise, based on what they wanted. I was like, I don't really know what I want to do. I felt like an imposter the entire time. I was just trying to save my name by stacking all these titles. And I was like, okay, if I really want to reinvent myself and like hit the restart button, I should go and do that new thing. But I didn't know what that new thing was. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what direction to go. With all that uncertainty, I spiraled even more.
So it's that like you're just thrown into this unknown unexpectedly and then it's just panic, right?
Yeah.
Or it's like, what is going on?
It's like you, as an adult, a 35-year-old adult, for the first time in your life, you have no job. You don't know what you're going to do because you don't want to apply for jobs for the sake of it, really. You have no direction. Can you imagine what does to one's ego, especially for someone who feels so insecure and put so much value on their self-worth to their career? It really
You're like flipped upside
flipped
down.
everything upside down. And then I realized because I put so much pressure on myself and tying my entire identity and self-worth to a career that wasn't even authentically mine. Why? Yeah.
So then after the layoff, you did a few things. Like what were some of the things you did or that you tried?
Yeah. So after my layoff, I was like, okay, you know what? We need to, fine, feel negative, feel very sorry for yourself. Okay, 1 month, next month, we need to like change course of action. So after I allowed myself to grieve, the following months, and so I started reflecting and thinking, but I also started doing a lot of crazy stuff.
Yeah.
I tried astrology, fortune telling, coaching as well. I got myself a professional coach. Okay. I also tried therapy on ChatGPT, gene keys. Yeah, I tried every single method out there. I was trying to grasp for answers right and left because I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what I wanted to do. And during this entire journey, the question about purpose kept emerging a lot. And I gave myself even more pressure because I didn't know what my purpose was. And then I started thinking and reflecting, and I was like, okay, if I had a magic wand, and if I could redo everything, what would that be like?
Oh, like rewind back, and what if money and all these things weren't a problem? Like, what would I really do, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
if money wasn't a problem, if I have a magic wand, if I can rewind and do everything again, what would I do? What would I really want?
Yeah.
And I realized what I really want was to tie my self-worth to my morals and my values and feel happy because I achieved something that was very aligned and congruent with my morals and values. So I started reflecting and thinking how to get there.
Okay.
And that started with the question of what is my purpose?
So it's rather than focusing on the job, the title, the position, the pay, it's like taking a higher level or even a step back and saying, what are the morals, what are the values, what are the things I believe in, and what is a role or a job that I can do that fulfills that?
Yes, exactly. So, I don't think the answer will come to me overnight. I'm still thinking about it, if I have to be really honest. But it got me reflecting and thinking a lot about the topic on purpose. And I feel like we put so much pressure on ourselves in finding that big and great purpose.
Yeah, I can agree to that.
Right? When sometimes it could just be very simple, helping someone, or it could be something as like what gives you joy. So last year, when I got laid off, a friend of mine passed away as well. Actually, it was all around the same time. And as I've been reflecting over the past couple of months, it got me really thinking, reframing my perspective on purpose, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, I wrote it down here just so that I don't butcher it and I can nail my key points. I wrote here, one could reframe purpose by thinking of it as regret. So if I'm going to die tomorrow, what would I regret not doing? I know I will regret working for a job that I'm not happy with and not finding myself. Definitely. Number two, I wrote here, you must face your fears in order to find your purpose. So it got me thinking, since my fears were so much about being an imposter, I had to get laid off to realize that I don't want to live a life like that, where I didn't feel genuinely happy for myself and not good enough all the time. Instead, I have to learn to put my self-worth into my morals and values instead of just a career. So yeah, I figured, for example, for this podcast, right, if this podcast could help someone who's going through something similar, that would make me happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you believe in it, like the values of what you're trying to accomplish in this podcast.
Yeah. And
Okay.
I think on this particular point is that I need to face my fears first in order for me to get to that point. I need to face my fears in such that I need to get laid off. Because if I didn't get laid off, I wouldn't be able to face my fears of being an imposter. Then only for me to realize that this wasn't the life that I want to live.
Yeah. That's when like all the imposter syndrome, all those feelings from the past really kind of bubbled up on the surface and you start addressing them.
Exactly. And then another point that I wrote here as well was that purpose could be as simple as what brings us joy and meaning. Many times we can't find our purpose because we expect it to be this big thing. And then we suffer from purpose anxiety because we cannot fulfill it, or we simply don't have one because we cannot define it. So I think that through this entire experience, I've learned that not to put so much pressure on myself, but also to really reframe the idea of purpose and keep things much simpler. Then when I really get there, fulfilling my purpose, I can be genuinely happy for myself. Because in the past, I realized I felt like an imposter. Even if I succeeded in my career, I wouldn't feel happy because it was not aligned with who I was deep down inside. And I was just doing all of it because I thought it would make me look good.
I guess it's very similar to, I think you see this a lot in Asian culture, is like people just chase things for the outward appearance.
Yeah, and then we suffer like purpose anxiety because we're like, oh, if I don't become a millionaire by the time I'm 30 years old, I'm a failure. Realistically, who's going to be a millionaire when I'm 30 years old? If you have, good for you.
Yeah.
But if you're going to define your entire self-worth on that and you didn't hit your purpose and you're going to feel like shit for the rest of your life, then it's not sustainable.
Yeah.
So That's one way, right? Because that's one angle, right? Because we have these very lofty goals in our head and we cannot fulfill them, we feel like a failure. Or because we know those goals are too lofty, then we're like, you know what, screw it, I'm not gonna have a goal, I'm not gonna have a purpose, because people have purpose is like, have to be a millionaire by the time I'm 30 years old, it's not achievable, screw it. But then what I've realized through this journey is it could be as simple as what brings you joy and meaning.
And aligning it to the values and the things you really believe in, right?
Exactly.
How did this exploration of purpose lead to Chit Chat with Auntie Mary?
Yeah. I mean, it came about through journaling and reflecting, as I mentioned. But also, I was honestly very inspired by listening to a lot of podcasts.
Yeah. I remember you were binging on a lot of podcasts, a lot of really good ones.
However, I also felt that a lot of podcasts that I listened to, while they were very inspirational, while they gave really good advice, a lot of the podcast guests, sometimes hosts, were CEOs and billionaires. And if I be really honest, I cannot really connect to that because I'm not a CEO or a billionaire, right?
And I would add they're also like very Western-centric.
And they're also very Western-centric.
Yeah.
And if these podcasts could somewhat, really inspire me already, and if I could have something more relatable, I feel like that would be more inspirational.
Yeah.
Right? And during my entire layoff journey, I actually connected with a lot of friends, and they exchange stories. They energized me. There were a lot of pockets of wisdom that they shared with me. So I feel like if I were to create a podcast where I could have my friends be my guests and we can exchange ideas, there is so much value to that.
Yeah.
I feel like it would be very powerful in that sense.
And another thing I'll add too is I feel a lot of these podcasts, it's like this whole lean in, grind mindset. It's like you just need to work really hard. You just need to keep grinding away. But it's like, yeah, but a lot of us go through the same problems. And I think maybe this podcast, Chit Chat with Auntie Mary, can also shine a light on those issues and talk about it in a very positive, also in a lighthearted way.
Yes, exactly. You're absolutely right. Yeah, I wanted to create a platform where I could amplify that message. And also, I realized the power of just sharing real and honest stories. And having a space to have that conversation, a comfortable space where we don't feel judged, where we don't feel bogged down by certain rules. So Auntie Mary essentially is a platform where we can share real, honest stories, exchange wisdom, share the learnings, reflections, where we're vulnerable, and just have fun.
Well, great. So where can people find and follow Auntie Mary?
Oh, this is the favorite part.
The call to action.
Yes. I've done this podcast 5 times, but every single time I get to say this part, it's my favorite part. So you can find Auntie Mary on YouTube, Spotify, TikTok, and Instagram. Please click the call to action button below to subscribe to my channel.
Yes. Auntie is very tech savvy on all these platforms. So.
Yes.
Oh, great. Is there anything else you want to cover or you think we missed out on?
No, I just want to thank everyone here for being very patient throughout the entire 30, 40 minutes that we've shared. This is our first time doing a podcast. I think we'll iterate and learn it along the way.
Yes.
Thank you so much for your patience, and we can't wait for the next episode.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Stay tuned. So we'll see you soon.
Okay, bye-bye.